Well, welcome. Obviously, today is always a big day. You know, I was talking to my wife last night. In the world of college football, I think you learn that your year kind of usually starts and ends on this date. Everybody else flips the calendar on January 1st, but our year goes all the way through. After tonight, we'll obviously have our event here in Fayetteville. We'll go to Little Rock tomorrow. We got a Arkansas High School Coaches Association on Friday night. Saturday, I have to speak at a clinic in Texas and Oklahoma. But after that, we'll give our guys a week to kind of just decompress, because this is such a trying time of the year, and our guys put in a lot of effort. Not only our 9 coaches, but my recruiting department with EK and his crew, people on campus, administration, our pilots, everybody. It was just a great effort to get to where we are today. We signed 24 guys that I feel really good about. 24 guys that start off in Arkansas, to sign 10 guys, to sign guys that we know want to be here and grew up being Hogs. I think that's a huge feather in the cap. Got 5 guys from Florida, 4 guys from Arkansas, got a guy from Georgia, got a guy from Oklahoma, got a guy from California and Louisiana, and then obviously one from Denmark. So we also went intercontinental with this class. So I just thought I'd go through each guy, just say a few words about him and where they're at. We actually have obviously a number of guys on campus, the first being Josh Allen. I'll go through alphabetically, but Josh was a guy that we were on a year ago, signed with North Carolina. Things didn't work out for him there. Sam stayed alive on him and really did a nice job of recruiting him. He's been here since January. Going to play him probably at an interior line position. A very explosive, very dynamic player out of Jacksonville. We're excited about Jamario Bell, obviously an in-state product. Probably the most impressive thing I've seen about Jamario. I was in his home last Saturday, and his mom likes to talk about, Helen likes to talk about her basketball prowess. She averaged over 40 points a game, and she was giving a little grief. And so Jamario had to pull out his first dunk. I still haven't lived mine yet at the age of 45. He had his first in live competition in 7th grade, and it wasn't just a normal throwdown. It was a dunk. I mean, the kid's athletic ability and what he brings to the table. Very excited. That's been a great area of the state for us. Great high school. I'm very excited to get him in here. Austin Cantrell. I know we got 3 tight ends in the class. Austin probably to me is the guy that I'm more excited just to see what he's going to do. He's incredible kid right outside of the state border here in Roland. LaDonna and Kevin, his mom and dad, raised a great kid that loves to play the game, competes, plays a little bit of everything. He threw on the film. I didn't know if I was going to have to recruit him as a linebacker, a running back, but we're going to settle him in the tight end room. He'll work with Coach Lunny as kind of an H position, but a kid with incredible upswing. Another guy that was kind of neat to obviously have success in the state of Texas this year, beating Texas Tech, and then the end of the year beating Texas. And we all know that Texas has to be a primary stomping ground for us. And to get Nate Dalton, who actually is a Louisiana kid by nature, born in Baton Rouge, moved to the Houston area, to get Nate Dalton, it's really, I think, a nice story for Clay Jennings. He did a great job of recruiting him, staying with him through the transition. Got down to us and a couple other Big 12, a Big 10. Michigan came in late, but I think a kid with really good upside. Datrion Dean, another kid on campus. Was a kid that we identified early on. Loved his film. Obviously an in-state kid that we think has tremendous upside. The only difficulty he's facing right now, he had surgery in December and faces a little bit of a road to recovery, but something he should be able to handle no problem. A guy that we're really don't know if he's going to be inside or outside. He really runs very well. Herb's had him the other day working out where he can run. He just can't lift with the upper body yet, and was blown away with his speed and agility. Probably one of the more unique and interesting stories, Yelda Fraholt, who's on campus right here. First became aware of Yelda after a sophomore year. Was in Ohio as a foreign exchange student. Just an incredible personality. Reached out to us. He kind of survived like 3 different recruiting segues with us. First, was brought to us, and Charlie Partridge recruited him for a little bit. Then the transition, I really hopped in there because he had seen so much transition. He'd been committed to us for a while, but just a neat story. His mom and dad came over on a couple different occasions. Had the neat thing, because he was an early enrollee, I was able to go watch his last high school game, and afterwards got a chance to go to the condo. His mom and dad had flown over for a week, and we're staying down there. And you always want to impress moms and make them feel good. But his mom, Lisa, grabbed my my face as we were leaving out that night. It was like 1:30 in the morning because the game didn't get over till like 11. She had made prune pie, which maybe it doesn't sound all that good to everybody in the room, but it was good. And when you have a mom that's entrusting you with her son from some way halfway around the world, it was one of those moments where you really realize how much these parents are putting trust and faith in you, and I know I won't disappoint them. Will Gregg, kind of a cool story, obviously already on campus, the brother of Chris, but I think Will's named Will for a reason. He's his own independent man. He's been very impressive since coming to campus. I think, he grew up with a little bit of the spotlight on him just because of his name and his brother, but has been nothing but impressive to not only our coaches but our players since he arrived on campus. And again, Kelvin and Tanita did just as good a job of raising this one as I did the other one, and expect big things out of Will. Derek Graham, unique story from Florida. Just really came across his film. Hadn't really hit that high school, but we were in Florida and begun to develop such a name that Rob got on him early. Sustained a lot of different things. He's a very respectful kid that, what's unique about some of these Florida kids and Texas kids, and we're going into the other states now and we're beating the big people. With Derek, it was Florida, Miami, Florida once, and then when Randy switched over, Randy went in after him hard, and he was respectful for that, but stayed true to his colors. And just a kid was reaching out on Twitter, lives with his brother. Ernest has done a great job of building him up, and I think nothing but the upside. 6'4", 220-pound kid that probably could be a 230, 235, 40-pound kid pretty quickly. Dre Green, obviously somebody right here in town. Dre's actually at an all-star game right now, but again, a unique story. Been raised by Brian and Nancy. Brian was on my staff a year ago, went to A-State. Kind of an unusual recruiting process to have is who he considers his dad on campus during our official visit, but I knew the family, knew the people involved, and very, very pleased to have him in our program for two reasons. First, I think the sky's the limit. He's a great player already, but he's kind of played safety, been down in the box. I think we'll use him as a down in the box safety or a will linebacker, but just couldn't be more excited to get him on campus, get him running around. Another in-state prospect, Colton Jackson. Colton came to us 3 years ago in our first summer camp and was just blown away by his athleticism. Thought, here's another kid, if you would take him out of Conway, Arkansas, and throw him in the middle of Dallas or Miami or L.A. or Chicago, he'd probably have a zillion offers. But because he's in a small town and in Arkansas, really an under-recruited, but I was just in his home 2 weeks ago. He just literally grows every time I see him. I think that if you look at his parents, Lloyd and Debbie, they're people that have raised him to believe in certain things, and I think when we get him here, it's going to be awesome. I'm going to pick this guy just because I think he's extra special. Kendrick Jackson's kind of my sleeper. Started contact with him a year ago during the spring. He wanted to commit, wasn't quite where we needed to have him yet, and continued to work and do the things we needed him to do to get there. Came in and recruited this past weekend and committed to us. And here's a guy that is a quarterback of his high school state championship team. He's a point guard on his basketball team. He's a shortstop on his baseball team. Just all these intangibles. He's got incredible vision, moxie, just a little bit of quiet storm to him. I couldn't be more pleased to have him join us here, and just because of all those little intangibles of what I've witnessed, I'm excited to get him on campus. A tremendous upside. Blake Johnson, punter from California. Roy had been on him since day one. Finally got him on campus later in the summer. Offered him. He committed. Neat kid. Really, really athletic. My success during my time as a head coach with punters have been the guys that have been better athletes, including like Sam Irwin-Hill. Going back to my days at Iowa, recruited a couple guys who were tight ends and safeties. Blake was an all-conference, all-state player, not only because of his punting skills, because of his safety skills. Played a little bit of linebacker, just a really good athlete. A neat story with him. Jeremiah Ledbetter, another guy already on campus from Orlando, goes to Hutch Community College. Was on him early on, thought he was our kind of guy, our demeanor. He has set the world on fire coming in here. It was kind of one of those stories you don't know really is true. His high school or his college coach had shared with us that he could do a backflip, and was a very productive player. And So Herbs had kind of gathered all the guys around a couple weeks ago, getting the guys psyched up to go and do a lift, and Jeremiah popped out there in the middle, all 280 pounds, did a standing backflip. I mean, he's just a tremendous athlete with a great motor. Really, really excited to get him, and another one of the Florida boys. Another guy that's here on campus with tremendous upside, Jalen Merrick. Unique story out of New Smyrna Beach. Sam stayed on him. Just kept recruiting him. He's kind of in an area that we hadn't traditionally hit, but again, because of our reputation in Florida and because of our reputation of offensive linemen, we were able to get in on him. It really got down to, Jalen wanted to be here with us. A lot of people in his house wanted him to go to Florida, Florida State, or Miami. Anywhere in the state was fine, just not Arkansas. And he joined us in January, and his upside is spooky. He's a 6'5", 350-pound kid that runs extremely well and plays very, very hard. He's only played football a couple years. C.J. O'Grady, another Fayetteville connection with Dre, another continued product out of Fayetteville High School. Tremendous athlete. Going to use him at the Y position. Can run, catch. A guy that I think is just scratching the surface of his athletic ability and putting him in position. Another in-state guy, LaMichael Petway. From Nashville. Went and watched him play last week. It was funny. Took Coach Enos with me. He had never really seen him except for on a little bit of highlight films, and Dan was just blown away when we're standing there in the gym. Just his ability to jump, his strength, his demeanor, and then obviously a great kid off the field. So very excited to get him in there. Ryan Pulley, a late addition to our class, needed him to do some things, and he did that for us. He's going to play in the back end. I don't know if it's going to be corner, safety, wherever. But he's very, very physical, very gifted, can run and jump, comes from an area where a lot of really good footballs come out of there, and I really expect some big things. Dominic Reed, probably one of the better additions here to our class. He was the #1 guy on our board for a reason. We really felt that he was the one guy in all of our evaluations that could stretch the field for us vertically. If you go through his high school, through his college, community college, guys will say that he runs sub 4.4, some 4.3. We'll tell you, but he was our #1 target at the wide receiver position that could just change the game for us instantly. He stretches the field, like I said, and catches very, very well. I went and saw him play, and just his softness in his hands and his ability to catch the ball is borderline freaky. And plus, he's from the state of Arkansas, which just adds that value that much more. It meant a lot to him to commit to us. Zach Rogers was committed to Arkansas before I was at Arkansas. He was actually committed back to the old staff, and I could see why. He was a very, very strong player early in his career, continued to develop. Unfortunately, got hurt his senior year, but is a bowling ball, a butcher knife, very tough, incredible kid, great heart, great attitude. His mom and dad raised him to play extremely hard and physical, grew up in a great program in Hebron, and excited to finally get him. He's here on campus with us already. T.J. Smith. Kind of a unique story. Joel had went and watched him in North Carolina. We were recruiting a running back there, and this kid was transferring schools, so we followed him there and stayed on top of TJ. Roy Seagrass took over the recruiting and kind of had a team effort from all of us. And I was in his home last week. Dad's a high school principal, mom's a counselor, and when we went in during our bye week, we asked Coach what he was weighing. He said about 250. 245. He weighed 282 on our visit, so he's putting on weight really, really well, and it doesn't look like he's even carrying that. So tremendous upside for TJ. Dion Stewart, one of our early offers here in state, very exciting player. He is one of those guys when you turn on the film, you're like, wow. I know when Dan went through and looked at all the offensive players on film, that was one of the guys that really jumped out to him. His athleticism, his ability to catch, extremely light feet, very, very fast. Tremendous kid that I think will be a great asset. Could use a variety of different roles as a returner or a wide receiver. And then Ty Story, obviously a lot written about Ty, one of the more decorated players in the state. Shane Diana had, he had been in athletics. Shane's the athletic director there, Charleston, and Ty, whether it's football, baseball, basketball, whatever it is, he's just a champion, and very impressed. He got through these 4 practices with us in a bowl practices, and can't say enough about his ability to just quickly correct and adapt things. Willie Sykes, neat story here, obviously flipped from Nebraska late. We knew that we were going to have a position open, so I offered it up to him. He actually wasn't able to come on his official visit until afterwards, but Clay had done a really nice job. He was set to come in that last week. I didn't know where our scholarship count was going to be. And the last thing I want to do as a coach is, promise someone to come in and not have a scholarship for them. So we talked through the whole thing there, and it was really, really a great way that it kind of just unveiled and happened. And tremendous talent. Had a great senior year. Probably has safety skills, but corner feed and ability. Clay's been humming on him about the last month, and really excited to have Willie in our program. And then last but not least, Raleigh Williams. Neat story. Obviously flipped from Ole Miss to us during the middle of the summer. Really fits our running back style. If he reminds me of one guy, Monty Ball, it's just like crazy how much he reminds me. Just like Monty shared his father's name, Raleigh shares his father's name. A home that just breeds success, and Raleigh is anybody that rushes for over 2,500 yards, I don't care what level you're at, is a good football player, and I think he's got some exceptional skills. So that's a little bit of a rundown. If I could not give this class just an overall feeling, I would say we built it on the offensive and defensive lines up front, especially the defensive line when we lost Darius. We wanted to oversign there, which kind of changed some players and some numbers that we were taking at other positions. I really couldn't be more excited about the way it unfolded, the way the kids stuck with us. Even some of these kids that joined us before we started winning some games, and then obviously the way the momentum that came after the Texas win to close out some of these guys, especially in Texas, was very, very good. I think I have a solid recruiting staff, probably one that's even better now after the transition. That should give us a chance to take this recruiting class and hopefully make next year's even better. So with that, I'll open it up for I'll go about 10 minutes questions, and I'm going to have my coaches come back in, or have my coaches come in, the coordinators first, then we'll go offensive coaches and defensive coaches, and let you have a chance for everything.
How much immediate help do you feel this class gives, or how much you feel?
Well, I think, for Josh Allen, Datrion Dean, and Yalda for Holt, Will Gregg, Jeremiah Ledbetter, Jalen Merrick, Zach Rogers, and Ty Story, to get those guys in early, to have six guys, high school kids in right now, unbelievable. And Ledbetter is just literally every time I see him, I'd see him on the weekend, he's just physically changing right in front of our eyes. So to get those guys in this early is very, very helpful. And then it sounds like, because we're not starting the summer school session until the last week in May, we should get a lot of those guys in for both summer schools. And anytime you can do that, you really got a chance. I expect all these guys to come in and play, whether it's in their first or second or third year, is really kind of up to them.
There talks about the momentum. How did the feedback change after you guys started winning?
After the couple of good performances in the SEC down the stretch, and then that break between the bowl game. And to be quite honest, as I watched film, as I saw our guys prepare, I felt very, very confident about us playing well in the bowl game. And as a head coach, that's not commonplace. But I just knew we matched up well, and so I kind of started, piping off a little bit. I'd call and get in on a kid and say, just watch, and then it kind of just laid out the way it did. And I normally wouldn't do that unless I felt really good, and I think that helped us in certain situations. Some people started to take swings at our guys just because we've done a good job of recruiting and evaluating the last couple of years, that people took notice of that and tried to come after some of our guys. So it was a little bit, I would say, in that the break from our last game, even as disappointing as Missouri was, to the actual bowl game itself, where I saw it really swing. Well, I think, particularly the the two DBs that we ended up getting, we weren't even on them and really in contention with it. In addition to that, Jalen Merrick was here's a kid that has every Florida offer in his hand. Everybody's trying to get him to go there, and he decides to come to Arkansas, but we had to start winning to make that happen. And then even, I think, as we got closer to the end here, a guy like Dominic Reed, he could have gone anywhere, some teams that really had better records or a little bit more of recent success in the history, but he knew that Arkansas was on an upswing, and that's what brought him home.
This is the biggest amount of Arkansas players
yeah.
since like 2008. Were you surprised that there were this many SEC caliber players in the States waiting outside that?
Bob, I think I go back to after my first year, we signed whatever it was, 4 or 5. It took Corliss there at the end, and that's when Bielema. We were sitting there the week or two before sign date, and I was trying to get to all these guys that were sophomores and juniors, and I'm like, really? And every place we went into, I'm like, whoa. And then the junior and senior years that some of these guys had that developed into the athletes that they are. you know, a guy, I'll take, for instance, Dre Green. You know, I liked him. Everybody liked him. I really liked him. I just liked the demeanor, attitude. Then you start watching him, and, you know, CJ was getting all this attention, where I think some people that are coming from the outside world come in and they're like, can there be really two guys at Fayetteville High School, or, you know, some of that. And all of a sudden you're like, yes. And then all of a sudden Georgia jumps in, you know, a couple other schools jump in after we do. And it just shows that the level of football in Arkansas, I think, is exceptional. And this year may be like some of those that have compared it to the past, to the ones that, you know, was here for Houston's run, or for John L's or Petrino's run.
You haven't said you've been big on rankings, but if you're around 21, I think, what does that mean to you?
Really nothing. I think it was fun to see the Super Bowl unfold, and to see that there was 0 5-stars, and majority of them were 2 stars and 3 stars again. And I just think about this all the time. Would you rather have someone that's an overachieving 3-star or 4-star, or have someone that's an underachieving 5-star or a 4-star? You know, it just, I think that's what life is built around, people that go beyond what others think they can. And I'm not saying, I don't care what they're ranked when we come in. Like, you know, I just got off the phone with about a dozen juniors today, some of them in-state, some out of state, and they're obviously highly recruited kids. That's great, but it's whether they fit your program, not only athletically, but if they fit your program socially, that really determine the success.
Talk about Nate Dalton. He's the guy that changed position
Yeah.
for senior year, and let's talk about recruiting those type of guys that emerge late.
You know, Nate's a kind of a neat story. He, like you said, was a quarterback. Thought he was a quarterback. It was interesting to sit in his high school, because he really didn't like the change to corner at first. Just did not like it, corner, safety, DB, whatever. But he said, when Nate was on his visit, I'm like, well, I know you resisted. When did it change? He goes, well, the second game I had a pretty good game, and all of a sudden I got a couple phone calls, and then he realized the coach might be telling him the truth. And, you know, I saw him on film throw the ball 70 yards. I mean, that don't just happen, you know. So, I mean, he can definitely wing it as a quarterback, but it just looked like he took to the DB position, and a guy like that played 1 year at that position really gets you excited.
3 tight ends, all local.
Mm-hmm.
Different skill sets.
Yeah. Well, absolutely. I think in our offense, you know, regardless of where we line you up at, you're a tight end, you could be in a variety of, you know, 5, 6 positions offensively, from wide receiver to tight end to hip to wing to fullback, you know, to in the line tight end to an over position. So we really have a ability to do that, and Coach Enos believes in those same things. I think we should be able to recruit tight ends and offensive linemen here pretty easily. I go back all the time. I remember when the Texans had 3 tight ends, and they were all former players of mine, so we use that all the time in recruiting. I like they're all a little bit different. You know, we don't want the same guy. You know, we want guys who you know, Will's probably the biggest of the group. CJ's probably the most, you know, ability to just jump, you know, ball skills of the group, and Austin's probably the hardest, meanest, toughest, you know, kid of the group, just a hard-nosed, will get it done guy. So they're all a little bit different, but Austin Cantrell too, he can dunk like there's no other, you know. So I mean, you can't put guys into stereotypes. He's a really, really good player, and I'm excited to watch all 3.
How big a disappointment? KJ helped committed to you for a long time, and then he changed his mind somehow. So how big a disappointment?
You know, I think the number one thing I've learned in recruiting, we only talk about the people we have, and you know, I think recruiting is always going to be a 24/7 year-round process, and you know, anybody that didn't join us that we offered a scholarship to, obviously wish them the best and the future that they decided.
Chris, do you feel like you still, after Texas Bowl, you talked about just standing threats at the wide receiver position, even the loss of KJ, do you still feel like you did have common 3 others?
Well, what I focus on is what we gained. You know, Dion Stewart, again, is a smaller, very explosive, energetic player. LaMichael Petway, physical, jumps, probably more of your intermediate route. But like I said, you know, Dominique was the #1 wide receiver on our board from day one because of his speed. We needed to have something that we didn't have, and Dominique's ability to run and catch, and his height. You know, I've seen him listed anywhere from 6'2" to 6'5". I don't think he's 6'5", but he's not 6'2". You know, he's in that nice range, got really long arms. So that part was critical for us because we really didn't know how that one was going to go down. He visited early on, you know, and then took a lot of trips and a lot of visits, and he's kind of a quiet kid. So it was, as the end got near here, it was exciting to see him at us. So we had originally signed to maybe sign 2 to 3 wide receivers, and that's what we did.
You got better in your secondary too.
Yeah, a lot of length. Nate Dalton and Willie, to be quite honest. Pulley is a little bit shorter, but he's got a lot of girth, you know. So, yeah, I was excited, especially with some of these underclassmen. You know, I just saw Andre Tolliver walk through those guys that are just freshmen that we got building up here are pretty nice.
Coach, I know you don't want to talk about what you don't have.
Mm-hmm.
There's a 25th spot left.
You know, one of the blessings that's come about is I'm actually trying to get it changed. For instance, I had 28 scholarships going into yesterday. The SEC, before I got here, implemented a rule that changed it so you could only sign 25 no matter what. To me, we're at a competitive disadvantage because when you have more, it was great when I only had 21 or 18 because you could still sign to 25. I knew I was going to have transition, but that's something that I brought up with the league office because, you know, I could have offered probably, you know, 2 or 3, 4 more players that possibly could have been in our boat. You know, I had a couple DBs, another linebacker, wide receiver. I actually ran out of scholarships on Friday. I guess it was Friday or Saturday. We had to, we could only send 25 out, so I actually ran out and didn't have any for a receiver in state, and then became aware that we could still have a chance to run. So there was a DB that committed to another school. So we asked the coach literally to rip up the papers. We had to get an agreement for him to destroy those papers or send them back before we could send out another paper copy. And thankfully that could happen on Tuesday. Otherwise we wouldn't have been in the race. So as a head coach, it really makes it tough, you know, because you have to make decisions, and unless that number, I've suggested going +3, which is a lot of conferences do that, which allows you to kind of play with that number a little bit here and there. Otherwise, you don't get down to those last day decisions. You know, and I'm not a big hat guy either. You know, anybody that goes to hat day usually doesn't do well for me. You know, so it's worked well for us.
One more.
Yeah.
Jamario Bell, I guess 6'2", 225. Is he when you looked at just redshirt possibly?
No, and I don't know when that weight was from. To be quite honest, Nate, I bet you he's probably 235 range. And you know, he plays. The one thing I loved about him is he didn't. You know, he's an AAU basketball guy. He gave that up because he needed to concentrate on what he needed to concentrate on to get ready for college. So he gave it up in the summer, and that's when he really began to swell up. Then they won a state championship. Now he's back involved in basketball, so he's shrunk down a little bit. But I think Jamario could be a guy that could come in and play right away just because he's so explosive and could give us something on the edge that's very, very unique.